Hello everybody. Today we watched the newest Spider-Man film, Spider-Man 4, Brand New Day. This will be a spoiler review because we don't really give a shit. Aiden, what's the plot?
Spider-Man has gone a few years since his last adventure. His friends have graduated college and he's on his own, living a lonely life. He gets so lonely that he starts going through spider puberty and becomes like super evil sometimes and tweaks out and tries to kill the Scorpion. We get a little montage of him fighting a bunch of villains, very briefly, including the Scorpion. And then he goes to stop a big heist on damage control, where he finds out a telepath is mind controlling people to break into damage control for some reason. He hangs out with the Punisher for a little bit, he hangs out with the Hulk for a little bit, and by the Hulk I mean Mark Ruffalo, and eventually finds out the telepath is a mutant named Jean Grey from the X-Men, but the X-Men don't exist yet. And she's really angry. And so she controls the Hulk for a while. He fights the Hulk to promote Mark Ruffalo's continued money-making scheme. He hangs out with the Punisher and fights the Punisher some, and then he says damage control are kind of creepy bad guys, and he's like, sorry Jean Grey, and Jean Grey's like, it's aight. And then they become friends. And some other stuff happens in the middle there, but that's the general gist of it. Connor, what'd you think of Brand New Day, a Spider-Man story?
I mostly liked Spider-Man Brand New Day, but there's some things I don't like. The main story of Spider-Man getting organic spider powers and kind of transforming into more of a spider than a man is very... it's symbolic about the fact that Spider-Man's taking over his life. The first half of the movie, he's in the Spider-Man suit 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Which is a very Spider-Man plot.
It reminds me of this old movie called Spider-Man 3.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, in a way. Like the kind of getting aggressive and stuff. But this is something they would do all the time. Like you look at like the original Spider-Man tablet arc, or just like every few issues, Steve Ditko and Stan Lee, or Stan Lee and John Romita would be like, alright, so Spider-Man is tired of Gwen Stacy because she was being mean to him at the malt shop, so now he's really pissed off and lonely, and then he punches a vase and says, I can't control my body, and now he's really mad and he's kind of acting like a dick. And he wonders what it'd be like if he robbed a bank, and his powers are all weird. And then by the end of the arc, he's gotten his powers back and he's fine. So it's not an unheard of... part of it is like, that's a very Spider-Man concept. It's not unique to the black suit arc, which they adapted in 3. So it does feel like a retread of that, but it's just a very common Spider-Man trope. So
Fair.
Take that for what it is. Obviously, like, looking at it, there are moments that reflect kind of Tobey Maguire's arc where he says, I'm a loner now, and I got a black suit which is making me punch people too hard, and then he cries about how he punches people too hard. Tom Holland does the same thing. It's contextually slightly different, but yeah. The movie has this underarching theme that Peter's basically running away from his problems as Peter Parker by overworking himself, which is a real thing with depression, and I found it to be mostly fascinating. I think he's definitely kind of leaning in on that, and I thought that arc was pretty good. There's some solid kind of decision going on throughout if Peter should Mary Jane, or MJ, not Mary Jane, Michelle. MJ and Ned kind of get wrapped into the story a little bit later on, and he's kind of debating whether or not he should let them back into his life or try to explain the obviously crazy fact that Doctor Strange mind wiped everybody, that Peter was a thing. So there's some drama behind that. I think a lot of that like personal drama I really like.
Yep.
There's some stuff that, and you know, I even like Jean Grey's art on the surface. There's a part of me that is kind of like, it's obvious, kind of cinematic universe fever. Like you could have gotten a lot of peripheral people. I don't know if, in a way, Jean Grey's arc is kind of parallel to his, but in other ways it's kind of eye-rolly because it's before they introduce the X-Men, but it's like a tease that we're doing the X-Men. So there's kind of that cynical side to it, but I did think the story idea was pretty decent. There's a lot of very strange continuity changes, I would say border on retcon.
Yeah.
Damage control, since Tony Stark has died, has left Tony Stark's control and is now a super evil superhero hunting.
They're basically like the evil people
like,
from the back rooms.
Well, they're like it's like X-Men Days of Future Past, like the Peter Dinklage. You got like
yeah, kind of.
Senator Kelly and all that shit that they do in the X-Men all the time, and for some reason it's tied to damage control, which was Tony Stark's like scrap metal super secret organization, but now is a super villain prison and this and that and this and that.
Child torture facility.
Which ties into the movie pretty heavily. And on that note, then you got like the Punisher is Peter's buddy in this movie. For some reason, I think Daredevil's in prison or something. I don't watch the Disney Plus shows still. I'm too busy with other shit. I don't have time to keep up with those. But my understanding is like Daredevil's in prison. So, but for some reason, the only hero in New York who has a time vacancy is the Punisher. And Spider-Man and Punisher become good friends. And there's a part where Punisher reverts to his old ways, which he's never left. He wants to snipe Jean Grey because of her evil happenings. And then he accidentally snipes Spider-Man and he feels really bad, and for some reason they let him sit by his hospital bedside for days. But like, Punisher's killed like hundreds of people and has been wanted for like 10 years or something, canonically.
1 month ago they released Punisher One Last Kill, which he murders 1,000 people.
It was like 2 months ago, but yes, that movie, he in broad daylight kills about 500 people that infiltrate his apartment building.
The previous MCU project, Punisher One Last Kill, is about him being a schizophrenic who kills 1,000 people.
Yeah, he's a schizophrenic serial killer. And here he's pretty much healed from the schizophrenia. In fact, he's somehow for some reason he was decided to be the voice of reason. I don't know why this character was picked. I feel like you pretty easily could have made this same movie with, like, I don't know, Daredevil, and Daredevil's like,
Iron
we did
Fist.
the right thing. Well, maybe not Iron Fist because no one likes him. I understand, like, Punisher's marketable, but if we're looking at, like, an equivalent marketable character, you could just, like, use Daredevil or something, and Daredevil's like, we have to arrest Jean because she's a danger or something, and Spider-Man's like, I learned the other information.
But Punisher and Spider-Man's a classic team-up, because
the Hulk stuff felt like kind of a pullout.
Fucking terrible.
Well, Punisher did premiere in Amazing Spider-Man, and he was Amazing Spider-Man villain for like 2 issues, and totally spun off and became his own thing.
Yeah.
Hulk, I liked the idea. I liked Bruce Banner's cameo. I liked Mark Ruffalo's cameo where he's talking to Peter about like repressing genomes because Peter's trying to repress his new powers and all that shit. Like that worked and that made sense. And I thought all the acting was pretty decent in this movie. I even thought Sadie Sink as Jean Grey was pretty good. But but then he turns into Hulk for a while for a Hulk fight, and then the Hand for some reason works with Tony Stark's damage control so that Spider-Man has ninjas to fight, and they say that the Hand is a bunch of misunderstood teenagers, so damage control took them on to be bodyguards, which, first off, Spider-Man doesn't find this immediately suspicious that the Hand. But like I'm doing my reviews. If you look at my MCU review playlist. I've been going through the Defenders shows, and the whole concept of like the first like 10 of those shows, which are all still canon. Nothing else in the old Joe Quesada Marvel TV days are still canon. But that is, and The Hand is run by Sigourney Weaver and a bunch of old Chinese people.
Yeah.
And they're not, and Bakuda, and they're very much not a bunch of random street kids. They're like an immortal 500-year organization that's been the ultimate rival to Kunlun, and very much would not. I mean, if the plot was that the Hand have taken over, have revived themselves from that era, and then took over New York or damage control to like try to harvest the power to superpower fight MacGuffin, blah blah blah. Jean Grey's the MacGuffin, then fine. But that isn't what they do. So that was just another weird choice, and in a way, it feels like they kind of just let Sony pick the litter and say this is what we want to implement into the movie. Shove. Scorpion's barely important. Yeah. But also, I feel like the Hand and Scorpion were the marketing red herrings to try to keep away the Jean Grey light secret thing. I didn't really pay attention in the spoilers, but it was pretty obvious when you hire a ginger girl that she's either Mary Jane or Jean Grey. And since they're introducing the X-Men, it'd be really weird to have a comic accurate Mary Jane as well as a separate MJ. That'd be pretty weird. So
yeah, Jean
Grey seemed like the fit.
I like how Scorpion basically got the same treatment as Paul Giamatti in The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
He did.
Where he was in all the trailers and then he's in the movie for like 4 combined minutes.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, they tried to keep the Jean Grey secret, which I didn't really know what they were going to do with Jean Grey. They did a lot of like body hopping and a little bit of her freeze powers. They didn't explore Jean Grey too much. The hard thing is like, she's going to be set up and dropped in the universe so that there can be the retcon that she's part of the X-Men. And they hired a pretty young actress, presumably so that they could put her on the slave contract for 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
You get those. You get the youngest possible people. Because the problem with like Robert Downey Jr., he hired him at what, 38? You know, 12 years in when they're doing Infinity War. Now he's fucking 45 years old, 50 years old. So,
yep.
You can't have the repeat of that. So you get some kids. You poach them off Stranger Things or 13 Reasons Why and whatever, Game of Thrones, B. Arthur, whatever the fucking Nightman's name is. You could get his kid or something from House of Dragons and throw her in there. I don't know anything about Game of Thrones, but you know what I'm saying. You gotta poach them young, get them while they're cheap, and then throw them on a 20-year slave contract.
Hey, House of Dragon has Dr. Michael Morbius' best friend in it. Doctor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're.
I like how the end of this movie is. They took the end of WandaVision where she makes the big bubble, and they took Thunderbolts and they just did the whole Thunderbolts ending a second time because nobody saw that movie. So, who's gonna know?
Yeah.
Who's gonna know? Who's gonna call them out? Nobody saw Thunderbolts to know that they just reused the ending.
Yeah, that was kind of one
saw
thing.
Madam Web to know they reused that rooftop set from the climax of Madam Web for some reason.
Yeah, this movie combined and mashed a bunch of shit together. But with all my... And there's some other weird stuff, but for all my complaints, I liked Peter's overall arc. I liked the stuff with MJ and Ned. They didn't just force it too much. They're slowly working those characters back into a more substantial role, but sidelined them quite a bit for this movie, where if they just immediately became best friends with Peter again, it would be kind of cheap. Obviously, you got to build back to that. They could take the advice from the Mandalorian and Grogu, or Book of Boba Fett, and have them become best friends in Shang-Chi 2 or something. unrelated.
Yeah, why not?
You know, the old cinematic.
Yeah, just throw it in some movie nobody's gonna see, like fucking Thunderbolts 2 or Fantastic Four 2 or Shang-Chi 2 or...
And also, like, I think ultimately, and this isn't a super important aspect to the overall themes of the movie, Jean Grey is mad and wants to save her sister, so she's running around and taking people over, but at the start, they imply this massive threat, and ultimately, what would have made the most sense for Jean Grey to do is when Spider-Man started teaming up with Damage Control, instead of vaguely being like, you can't stop me from what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make your girlfriend jump off a building.
And I'm going to break in and steal an unknown super weapon.
I'm going to brainwash a bunch of people to shoot each other and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to try to steal... I'm going to tell you a vague super weapon sounding thing, and you're going to have to chase me over it. If she just said, these jackasses kidnapped my sister for having superpowers, Spider-Man, I need your help, that would have avoided the entire movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost an unavoidable nitpick, but it is just kind of a fundamental flaw with the plot. Like, how do you do it? She isn't particularly doing anything villainous. Like, she's breaking the law, but Spider-Man breaks the law all the time in a semantic sense. But if they're like, yeah, my sister got kidnapped and put in a gulag.
Jean Grey does
I'm sure
force
Spider-Man
40 people to commit suicide, but
yeah, she keeps killing people. Although I'm sure, Spider-Man shot a pot shot web we don't see to save those people that were like jumping off buildings and shit.
The hobo that got run over by a bus and his little spine cracked and he was bleeding on the ground and Spider-Man just shot a little web at him, fixed him right up.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, no, that's kind of the messy part of the plot. And when they did the same plot in Thunderbolts, it was at least that it was like the century's evil depression monster. Something that couldn't be reasoned with.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a little... There's a lot of story problems here, but also the movie has good cinematography and for the most part feels like a real movie. There's just some cinematic universe slop that they kind of awkwardly started sneaking in the back door, and then occasionally it comes up on you pretty hard where you're like, yep, we're having a random Hulk fight where Punisher's fighting the Hulk, because fans will talk about that on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, at least this movie didn't look like it was shot in the Disney bubble like The Mandalorian and Grok.
Yeah, I mean, there's no lower low than the most hilarious movie of all time, getting funnier by the year with retrospect, Ant-Man the Wasp, Quantumanium, and there's nothing more hilarious than the fact that like half of the people still, the Marvel copers, were pretending it was like not only good but one of the best. I remember there's a certain Marvel coper that I have a podcast with on this channel who told me when we left Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumanium that it was the best Marvel movie he had ever seen in his life.
He did say that.
He said it was the greatest Marvel movie. Yeah. And like a week later, he's like, that's the biggest piece of shit ever. Yeah. And then I was like, you were just saying it was the best movie ever. And he's like, you're lying on my name. I'm like, no, I'm not, bro. I wish I was. But yes, the last three Marvel movies have been Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man, and maybe if there's another one I don't remember, but these last three I've quite enjoyed. I don't understand how they would make Doomsday or Secret Wars like defy my expectations, but even with the flaws, it feels like a real movie in the same way like kind of one of those Phase 1 Marvel movies did.
Oh, before Thunderbolts was Captain America Brave New
That was an awful movie. That's why I said the last three, because I remembered Captain America was before that, and that was not good.
Deadpool and Wolverine technically, but before that was the Marvels. So
honestly,
things haven't been perfect. But
out of that list, the Marvels and Captain America are both absolute fucking slop. And Ant-Man 3. Most of Phase 5 was bad.
They got it together at the end after
Thunderbolts. Thunderbolt after Phase 4 was mid to bad, and Phase 5 was mostly bad, but Deadpool and Wolverine was slightly tolerable, but Deadpool and Wolverine was similar to this movie in that, like, well, no, but this movie's far better than that. What am I fucking smoking?
Deadpool and Wolverine is more like the. I mean,
Deadpool
and Wolverine was
is
basically
like the
like
Wolverine.
more No Way Home.
Yeah,
Where
Deadpool
it's
and
just
Wolverine.
like cameo slop.
Yeah, but I think Deadpool and Wolverine, like with the last like cameo multiverse Deadpool Avengers thing he made, that was like the like you couldn't. It hit critical mass of pulling that stunt. Like you kind of pull that stunt a little with Doctor Strange and.
And now we're pulling it again.
Remember how
Avengers
quaint it was when they
Doomsday.
were like, "Oh, look, Evan Peters pretending to be Quicksilver in WandaVision, but he's not really Quicksilver."
Yeah.
And it was like quaintish.
Yeah.
And then
Now we're getting
and then
Avengers
they're like,
Doomsday
"What if
this
Patrick
year.
Stewart from an alternate universe, but it's Patrick Stewart in the Inhumans guy?"
Now we're getting a whole
2 minutes.
movie of that this year, where we get to see
We've gotten
Sonic's
two full
dad as
movies
a
of that so
60-year-old
far.
man shooting lasers with 75-year-old Frasier.
Professor Xavier's literally a little raisin in a wheelchair on hospice because
He's gonna
Patrick Stewart's 145 years old.
He's gonna look like that little worm from the SpongeBob chocolate episode.
He will. He will. Yeah. Yeah. No, it is kind of crazy, but I do feel like I feel like they might have watched The Defenders and said, "Wow, that was actually really good for a Marvel movie." But the problem is, no one saw it, and they're like, "Let's just we'll rerun it with Spider-Man, remix it a little, but just rerun it with Spider-Man."
Yeah.
I do feel like, one thing Marvel could maybe watch was the themes, because, like, I feel like Marvel's like, if one thing works, we can do it 25 more times. And even though no one wants Thunderbolts, a lot of people were like, wow, that was a really, like, decent superhero take on depression. And they're like, what if we could get someone to say this is a really decent superhero take on depression with the new Spider-Man movie, too?
I like the
That's
part
what they
where
did.
the movie gets serious for a minute and Spider-Man and MJ have their grown-up talk, and then 5 seconds later Spider-Man's like, holy freaking frick, Mr. Backroom's lied to me, I need to go fucking punch the Hulk and schlubba-lubba-wub-dub with fucking Deadpool and whatever. Fucking awesome. Thanks, Disney marketing executive.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. Yeah, I mean, there was some unfortunate cinematic universe effects, and like, I did feel like tonally, the first half of this movie, and I think until the Punisher and when we get the Jean Grey reveal and the Punisher and the Hulk and Spider-Man are all together in Damage Control headquarters, that is the point where the cinematic universe started really rearing its ugly head.
Yeah.
I was fine with the Frank Punisher cameos and like, I don't know who else to turn to, so MJ has to stay at your house, Punisher. But they overdid the Punisher to the point where it didn't really make sense that this mass murder. I mean, imagine if that would kind of be like me, like getting like, if I was like in the hospital for a gunshot wound. One of the Columbine guys shot me, and then Dylan and Eric came to bring me flowers at the hospital and sit by my bedside for weeks.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It just, I feel like the Punisher would probably have to get in one of those brawl shootouts. But yeah, the fight scene choreography was cool. I don't know. That's pretty much all I have. I thought it was I liked it for the most part. I think the biggest problem is, like, there is kind of the major premise problem that if Jean Grey talked to Spider-Man for 3 seconds, and she invaded his mind and knows his memories, so she knows he's a very empathetic and good guy. She should have just said, my sister's in a gulag because she was illegally kidnapped by these guys. And
Yeah,
then
but Aunt May's ghost had to tell her to go found the X-Men so she'd turn into a good person.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think there's kind of the premise problem there's the kind of the messy hurdle to get over. It feels almost like until we learn that this is Jean Grey, it's not Jean Grey. and then, because like the moment she snaps is when she's is in damage control headquarters, and then she's being tortured, so she almost breaks bad and kills everybody. You know, so that should have been when she turned super evil. But until we actually meet Jean Grey, 2/3 of the way into the movie officially, and the mystery of who this person possessing bodies is,
she's just played
comes
Smile
to light.
2 before that. She's
yeah.
like, Peter's like walking down the street, and then some guy just pulls out a gun, and she's like, "Hey, want to see something funny?" and blows his brains out in front of Spider-Man.
Pretty much.
And then she's like, "Oh, I'm really actually super empathetic, and I'm glad your aunt's ghost told me to found the X-Men and whatever."
And that's like another problem is like when it's still a creepy ghost villain, she takes over MJ and then tries to psychologically fuck with Peter because she knows his entire memories, so she can just do whatever to him. So then, but then she climaxes that by trying to get MJ to throw herself from a building to fucking die, and then she's like, "Fuck you, dude," flies up. And then once we learn it's Jean Grey, famous character from the X-Men, they're kind of like, she's in the good again.
Yeah.
There's some problems lying in a lot of the premises of this movie.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like it feels like each act is a different movie and like wasn't written in sequence. But there wasn't. But they said no, you can't go back and rewrite this to make more sense. In a way.
This has to come out before Grok finishes generating Avengers Doomsday, so you just gotta shoot it.
Yeah. Which I don't even really understand why this had to come out before Doomsday. And part of me was watching this and was like...
Because they have a really bad post-credits scene where the Spider-Man tracker app detects Tobey Maguire in the wormhole.
Yeah, okay, at about 17... At about the 17th retcon in the movie, I kind of just stopped caring because I was sort of having fun with the movie. Like, okay, sure, the hand is here for no fucking reason that makes any sense considering what canon has previously told us. It would be a big stretch to assume that now the hand is working under damage control and is also like 7 ninjas that now wear full ninja costumes. Like, it's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
It felt more like Dustin Daniel... wanted to use the foot from the Ninja Turtles, the hands parody.
Yeah, Damn Daniel.
What?
That's his name, Damn Daniel. You know, like the line.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Damn Daniel wanted to put ninjas in the Spider-Man movie, so he
Well,
just did.
it felt like the Foot Clan from the Ninja Turtles, where they're just a bunch of generic kid ninjas, which is what the foot is, and not really the hand.
Yeah.
In the MCU. And that's what he did. But yeah, no, I was kind of like, honestly, I was watching this and I was like, I think the most refreshing thing is that they're just absolutely taking fuck continuity and just like, this is Spider-Man's movie and everything else will just have to deal with the consequences later. Like, yeah, okay, The Punisher 2 months ago was in the largest mass shooting in American history.
Yeah.
And now he's allowed to sit at the hospital at Peter Parker's bedside.
Horrible
I guess I don't care.
schizophrenia.
Oh, he had a horrible
cured
schizophrenia outrage. And now he's kind of just a nice guy who used to shoot a bunch of people and still sometimes does, but rolls his eyes and says, "Fine, I won't kill people this time when we get in our action movie fight. Fine." But I was like, you know what? This movie feels very standalone. Like, Hulk doesn't show up to be like, now I need to go off and prepare myself to fight the
fly
Red.
into space and fight the
Spider-Man, I gotta run.
Whatever movie.
Spider-Man, I gotta run. Abomination is broken out of his cage, and in the next Incredible Hulk 2 movie that we're gonna drop in 2029, presumably, allegedly, I'll be fighting him. So I need to go.
What was the third Thor movie?
Ragnarok. The fourth one was Love and Thunder with Jane Foster getting super cancer and then dying. And it's like it's like a horrible fucking movie, basically.
Did
and
I ever see
Christian
English?
Bale.
I remember we watched the Spanish camera Ragnarok.
Okay, no, we didn't watch the Spanish camera. The story is that we didn't have any money because we were fucking broke. Living in a junker house in the ghetto, in the slums. And we decided to do an extra legal form of watching Thor Ragnarok like 3 days before it was coming out. But there was only like 3 scenes that were entirely in Spanish with no subtitles, and the other like 90% of the movie was
I don't
was
think
in
I've
English.
seen that movie except in that form.
I think I've seen it 3 times now. 2 other times that weren't in Spanish. Camera. I watched it on Blu-ray. That's the only Marvel Cinematic Universe movie I didn't catch in theaters of the now 38 fucking movies. Or I guess it's probably like 35 because it's counting the specials in that one. Guys.
Obi, come on.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess Aiden, what did you think of this movie now that we're 40 minutes into this video?
I like the first half.
31 minutes.
I like the first half of this movie quite a bit. It's kind of like a remix of Spider-Man 2 and 3, but he's doing like, you know, everyone said we want a street-level Spider-Man that's not just Iron Man Jr. And then we got like 20 minutes of that, and he like fights Hammerhead and some other people, Scorpion. Scorpion gets the Paul Giamatti treatment. Really, there's a lot of stuff I like in this movie. I like Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. And honestly, I don't mind the Spider-Man Punisher team-up. But it really is just kind of like market analysis determined that the only one of these movies that people still go see is Spider-Man, so you have to advertise that the X-Men are coming back in the Spider-Man movie or no one will ever know. And so the X-Men are there, and all the Hulk stuff's fucking terrible. I just wish he wasn't in this movie. Fucking just horrendous.
I mean, I wish he was just Bruce Banner on the college campus for one scene, two scenes.
I wouldn't. The Bruce Banner college teacher cameo.
They got like a bi-yearly Hulk cameo requirement in Mark Ruffalo's contract.
But then there's just
He's opted into the $1.5 million a year clause or something.
Fucking just obnoxious scene where Spider-Man has to fucking dick around with the Hulk, and the Punisher shows up and starts shooting the Hulk, and they're doing like quips, and the Punisher's like, "Oh, that just happened? Oh, he's turning green right behind me, isn't he?" It's like, holy shit, just fucking kill me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd call it a stealth ad for Avengers Doomsday bringing back fucking Sonic's dad, but stealth would be generous. They want you to know that the X-Men are back after the cinematic treasures Dark Phoenix and New Mutants and
I don't think it's
Apocalypse.
I don't think it's necessarily a Doomsday ad. I think Doomsday is going to be a giant. I think Doomsday, you're going to get the old X-Men as the Trojan horse, so that at the end of Secret Wars they can get retconned and wake up as different actors, exactly like what happened with Days of Future Past.
Yeah, but the thing
Trojan horsing in the new X-Men, so people say, I better watch out for that new X-Men since they just gave me James Marsden.
The reason Jean Grey's in this movie, I hate to be cynical, but I'm gonna, is because the only one of these movies that women will willingly see, if not forced, perhaps violently, is Spider-Man.
They used to see Captain America and Iron Man too.
So they put Jean Grey in this movie so that women would go see it and their boyfriends would say, those are the X-Men. And the women would say, I want to see more of the X-Men because I like Spider-Man. And then their boyfriend says, the X-Men are in Avengers Doomsday, directed by Grok, coming December 2026.
Well, I think you're being a little unfair to women, because yes, women, but also just like general audiences.
Yeah, I mean,
African Americans and Asian people. Like obviously the podcaster type people like ourselves. I hate and I mean obviously the bread and butter are those like interesting characters that are like, I'm gonna watch this movie 30 times in theaters.
Yeah. You need to trick people into thinking they care about the X-Men because Spider-Man is with the X-Men. And people don't like the fucking X-Men because...
It's the marketing, but if Jean Grey showed up in Shang-Chi I think if this was Shang-Chi 2 that the director made instead of Spider-Man 4...
Thunderbolts 2.
Well, no, I'm saying if he made in the alternate world where he didn't jump ship on the Shang-Chi franchise to do Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah,
and he's like, man, because I can't imagine he was the one who said, you know who I really need to use as our Spider-Man villain? Jean Grey. Like, I think Jean Grey's story worked well enough, and I think it's a good way to gain sympathy for the mutants, and it was a slight... I mean, it was a backdoor advertisement and a way to build up hype off of the fact that people can write clickbait articles that say, the X-Men are here!
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a studio mandate. I think they did well enough with their arc, but yeah.
Like 9 of the 11 X-Men movies suck complete dick, so they gotta trick people into thinking they like the X-Men again.
Hey, there's... I like...
X-Men 1 is
X-Men
watchable.
Days of Future Past. We'll skip the original trilogy, because let's be honest here.
They're too old, yeah.
Well, they suck. Except, I mean, X-Men 2 you might say doesn't suck, and like, I guess...
X-Men 2 is watchable.
In a relative sense. X-Men 1 and X-Men 3 are not that good. X-Men 1 has like some cool moments, but it's very dated.
Yeah.
And it's very Wolverine focused.
Days of Future Past is good.
First Class was good. Days of Future Past is good. I like the Wolverine from 2013 and Logan, but
I like the Wolverine.
The Wolverine is like a step under Logan.
And the Wolverine and Logan are kind of so far separated from that shit that they are good, but...
Are they, though? Because the problem with the X-Men movies... The original X-Men trilogy should have just been called Wolverine and the X-Men. Because the X-Men are side characters.
Logan's much more of like an X-Men sequel, but the Wolverine kind of just ignores the existence of the X-Men.
What do you mean? Logan is the X-Men? Oh, because
no,
Patrick Stewart?
Logan has like Patrick Stewart and X-23, and they talk about how the X-Men were all killed, but...
Yeah, the Wolverine, he's like, I'm flying to China.
In the Wolverine, he goes to Japan, and then there's not a single other X-Men character, and he just dicks around alone.
Yeah.
You know, people like the Deadpool movies, I guess, but nobody really thinks of that as an X-Men thing. It's just the Ryan Reynolds shtick movie.
Deadpool's like, I mean, the hard thing with like calling Deadpool an X-Men movie is like the equivalent of calling like a Thor Ragnarok an Avengers movie. Like, you know, technically, it's an offshoot of that, but it's its
Apocalypse
own thing.
Is the worst movie ever. New Mutants is the worst movie ever.
Well,
Dark
they
Phoenix
did Apocalypse, which was
ever.
shit. They followed that up with Dark Phoenix. Was there 3 of those? There might have been. No, I think Days of Future... Am I lumping in Days of Future? I think there's 7 X-Men movies. There's the 3 First Class, Days of Future Past. Oh yeah, then the 2 shitty ones.
New Mutants, starring Anya Taylor-Joy as the character from Marvel Tocom.
She got Sydney Sweeney with Madam Web. Like, Sydney Sweeney was in Madam Web, got really fucking famous, and then like the movie got delayed forever, so she was like, whatever, and then they're like, oh, you're really famous now? Well, what? You get ready for the press tour for fucking Madam Web.
Hey, they did the same thing to Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4 as well.
Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy at least got lucky with New Mutants that it was shadow dropped as content for COVID for the people who are like, I refuse to stay home. Or the people who were like, I don't know, because like I don't know how
bomb dropped.
I don't know how many people were like, I'm willing to risk my life. I gotta go out there. I got a game plan, you know.
I was. It was fucking terrible.
Okay, to be fair, we didn't watch it with a crowd. We watched it alone in the movie theater I was running at the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
All I know is that time was plagued with. I would sit there alone most of the time. We had like 40 customers a day, and 25 of them came up to me and was like, I'm not wearing a mask. What are you, some sort of prissy? You some sort of like prissy fruitcake boy for wanting me to wear a mask? I'm like, they watch the cameras. I don't want to get yelled at to put on your mask. And they're like, I'm going to fucking kill myself if you make me put on the mask because I'm immune compromised. Then I'd say, you got to go. And then they usually would. Except for the one time during Tenet where... some guy started yelling racial slurs in the lobby and rolling around on the floor, so I had to call the cops on him. And then right before the cops came, he fled. And the cops arrived and were like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Some guy just started yelling that I was a pussy or something, rolled around on the floor and started screaming racial slurs, and then he left." The end. So that was my COVID experience. That was the type of crowd that watched New Mutants because they had to make a political statement. We had to fulfill the content to allow for such embarrassing moments.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's annoying that Spider-Man just can't have his own fucking movie and just has to be the little Iron Man lackey or the fucking MCU advertisement, but it's a fine movie underneath all the Disney marketing slop they shoved on top of it. It's just kind of frustrating that it has to be this way, that it has to be the fucking X-Men Trojan horse.
Yeah, I guess.
And also Scorpion gets Paul Giamatti'd after being teased for 7 fucking years.
I just, to be fair, they set up the Scorpion, they're like, we'll do the Scorpion, because I think originally the Homecoming trilogy was like, we're going to keep it pretty small scale, was the plan originally, and then that absolutely was not allowed, so that went down the toilet pretty quick. But like, realistically, I mean, like, Scorpion's thing is he was a gangster who got a scorpion tail grafted to him. And the most interesting thing that happened in the history of Scorpion is that he's a cool character looking. So like he's cool in the Sinister Six, but as like a solo villain, other than like the Scorpion's robbing a bank, so now I have to beat up this guy, or Scorpion is behind Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin in the Sinister Six. Like there's nothing interesting. There's no hook to him. He's just a guy who has a scorpion tail. He's just,
I don't think you...
unless they're like a tragic story where he's like, I was using the scorpion tail to impale people because my daughter has needs her chemotherapy. I mean, that's what they did with Sandman. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what you do. Fucking Spider-Man 2 had one villain and it didn't have to have fucking a million goddamn fucking shit. Fuck. The Hulk shows up and starts whatever tweaking.
Yeah.
And Punisher shows up.
Yeah, tonally this is a little more melodramatic too, which I thought was more in line with like the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire movies, and it was certainly more emotionally resonant than the Tobey movies, but not nearly as entertaining, and just far superior to the Mark Webb movies, regardless of all the cinematic universe garbage.
Yeah, it's certainly better than The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'll give it that.
Kind of hard not to be.
I don't know, you could have done a Scorpion thing and still had the evil backrooms people manipulating him to whatever. The backrooms people putting Jean Grey in the backrooms and shooting her with the seizure lasers or whatever they were doing until she died. But not with Jean Grey, with like Scorpion or something.
Yeah, I feel like you could have picked, if you wanted to do like a psychological, I feel like
this is the street level Spider-Man movie that features the world-ending threat of Jean Grey accessing the Phoenix Force and blowing up the universe. And features the Hulk and 8 million other fucking characters. Thor starts twerking and Deadpool goes wubba lubba dub dub.
my request for the next movie is do what you did here, but cut the cinematic universe shit down to almost nothing. I'm really depressed though, because in a way, like, I liked that the Thunderbolts was like Avengers. What if Avengers was relatively small scale, and the Fantastic Four is like, we need to fight Galactus, but obviously we can't punch the giant man or shoot him with lasers or whatever, so we'll just have him walk into a trap and then it'll teleport him to another dimension and we have to use science. It was like kind of lame and different.
We got something different than punching man in the face.
And this movie, while it has its messy moments, has a lot of redeeming qualities as well. And then I find it so depressing that the next two Marvel movies are going to be 500 character slop films. Like, it's like, you know what it feels like? It's like watching someone, you know, go to rehab, you know? and then knowing that December 22nd they're gonna have a massive relapse.
My analogy would be that, like, you know, the MCU's like a severely balding man who has enough hair to make a bad comb over, and that comb over is Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's just trying to hold the whole thing together while it all falls out around him.
Pretty much.
And at this point, you just need to accept it for what it is, shave it off, and let Spider-Man go on his own instead of getting dragged down with Doomsday.
Yeah, in a way, I would say, like, you look at Thunderbolts and
yeah, I like
you look at you look at Thunderbolts
crap,
and
man.
Fantastic Four, and it's like, they were like, maybe I'll try being bald or something. I'll get some bald wax, and
Yeah,
then
they did it. And those movies are good.
Yeah.
Nobody saw them, but they're good.
I think honestly, and Kevin Feige's indicated that this is what he wants to do, and I'm not sure if I trust the guy. I do trust him never to fall as low as he did in Phase 4. I think he learned his lesson to whatever extent. I think the movies have improved to the slightest degree. I think the problem is that I think they're going to try it with the Avengers, which they are, which I think is a problem. But I think, like, I hope that they just, like, decide to do what Phase 1 was, where it was 6 original, connected by 2 seconds at the end, or, like, whatever.
The MacGuffin is a magical rock that they
look,
all have to collect.
It's the end of Captain America, and Samuel L. Jackson found me in the ice, and now I'm getting a manila folder that says Avengers on it. Like, leave it to that.
Mark Ruffalo is contractually... He's upgraded his contract, so he has to be in every fucking movie as the goddamn Hulk.
Yeah.
But this is the only one he's been willing to show up on set for in like 15
I think this is genuinely
movies.
the first fucking one since he's the Hulk for 12 seconds in Infinity War. But this is the first time he's like the traditional Hulk since like Ragnarok.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's been like 10 fucking years where they danced
I'm really
around
glad
the
they got
Hulk.
rid of the fucking smart Hulk shit. That
Which
shit
would be-
sucks. That shit's so lame. He is the smart Hulk for like 1 second in this movie. And he's like, I'm the smart Hulk. And then he becomes the fucking cool Hulk instead of the boring, stupid, lame CGI Mark Ruffalo Hulk.
Yeah.
Anyway, Connor, would you recommend Spider-Man Brand New Day?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the biggest problem is this movie shows a lot of potential. I think the biggest problem with this movie is the looming cinematic universe problem.
Yeah.
It's casts a dark shadow on this movie because there's a lot of really decent, like, the character study of Peter and like how the movie's shot and edited, and the action's really good, and when it feels like a movie that's more or less just doing its own thing and not worried with the MCU proper, it's really good. And when it feels binded to set shit up and wants to put stuff in that makes no fucking sense because it can, it feels less good.
Imagine being some guy in like 40 years who's like, I'm gonna watch every Spider-Man movie, and then you get to, well, I mean, actually all the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies will be borderline nonsense if you just watch them without the rest of the shit.
Yeah. No, that is kind of the short-sighted nature of the cinematic universe, especially now. Like, it's the same problem that the comic books have. People are like, where do I start with the comics? It's like, I don't know, just buy a comic. The nice thing is creators don't want to bother learning everything that's ever happened to the characters, so they get general guidelines and they say, this is my story.
Yeah.
And it's its own thing. But people get so nervous about comics because they're like, do I have to read all 1,000 issues of Spider-Man to understand it? And it's like, not really, kind of, but in some cases they'll randomly be like, 50 years ago, Gwen Stacy.
If you want to watch fucking Spider-Man Homecoming, you better watch 19 movies of context, otherwise you won't know why Spider-Man's fucking Iron Man Jr.
And that is one thing I think the Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four kind of learned from, is that in the comic books, they don't need to explain why no one else is there, but for whatever reason, this problem happening in New York. It's Spider-Man's and Spider-Man's alone.
Black
And it's
Widow
not
just
going to
tells him
relate to what's,
fuck off.
you know, and at the same time period across town, Iron Man is fighting an army of evil Iron Mans, and Green Goblin is terrorizing, and Captain America, the whole country's taken over by Nazis, and Captain America's taking care of that. But at the same time, Black Widow's dealing with the conspiracy where the whole country's taken over by anti-Nazis.
I do like how Black Widow
Separate.
in this movie, Spider-Man calls her up and he's like, I think there's an evil witch demon woman who's taking over people's bodies and forcing them to commit suicide, and Black Widow's like, yeah, it doesn't sound like my fucking problem.
No, I think the whole idea though is that the new Avengers are just fucking weird or something. I thought that was funny. I liked when Spider-Man got Harvey Weinsteined by the new Black Widow. Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
Aiden, would you recommend this movie?
Yes, it's good. It's good, but it's really annoying that it's good despite all the crap that Disney marketing said it had to include.
Hey, to be fair, Sony was also involved because it's Spider-Man.
Frankly, if they'd drawn the line, if they had a little restraint and said this is going to be a Spider-Man Punisher movie, I would have liked it substantially better, because I thought Spider-Man and Punisher together were actually really great, which is not something I was expecting. I thought I'd find them really fucking annoying.
Canonically, it didn't make that much sense, but John Bernthal and Tom Holland had really good chemistry. The Odyssey reunion, everybody. The Odyssey reunion.
It really was. Anyway, I guess we'll see you next week for
nothing. The following week we got something.
See you eventually for something. Whatever we're seeing. Yeah. Oak Street or one of something.
Yeah, I think Oak Street's next.
We're seeing fucking...
Did I ever give you Oak Street? Or
yeah, you did. Okay. We're seeing Oak Street in a couple weeks, and then Coyote vs. Acme, a movie that shouldn't exist but does.